now that you've seen more video and film of them, your impressions of Auburn?
Hadn't changed in terms of the athleticism and the speed that they play with, on tape. If you look at the teams that they've, thank you, Jim, that they've played, teams that they've lost to, however you want to look at it, they've played some really good teams. But what you see is a tremendous amount of athleticism and speed from their skill positions. Their kicking game, return game. They have 2-3 guys back there that have taken kicks or punts back for touchdowns. So, it's what you expect of a team that a year ago was removed from winning the national championship. And so there's a lot of respect that we have for them. And then you see, despite what the record says, you see, how well coached they are, and you see how they play, and you see how athletic they are.
You said a lot of the earlier practices for the Bowl would be directed for the younger players, the inexperienced guys. What did you see from them, and did any of the guys in particular stand out to you?
With the opportunity, again, we talk about, you look at on the college landscape, I think it'd be safe to say that a lot of teams that have been to bowl games year in, year out are teams that have been improved, the teams that have developed their players, and hopefully this is just a, kind of a restart of things that we've, experienced in the past, being able to have those extended practices, and then you give them to those young players and young linemen. I started naming off names, and I'll be negligent and not mention a lot of others, but our young line prospects have done a nice job. They've done a nice job in the weight room, getting bigger, faster, stronger. Our young skill players, even the guys that played, the red-shirted skill guys and guys that played, like a Cameron Mack, who's played, but his development as far as getting bigger, faster, stronger continues, continues to get better. And even a couple of developmental practices, we had Dominic, Terrell in there, caught a couple of passes and did some nice things. So I think it afforded us the opportunity to not just use this bowl game, use it as a barometer, but also the anticipation of how spring can be and how it should be. Instead of, I've said before, instead of starting from stance and start, when you get into spring practice, you're already into the concepts and why you do things and the learning curve of guys like Dominic and Cameron and some of the young offensive line, that when they get into spring, they're developed and they're ahead of where they were last year. Last year, not playing in the bowl game, obviously you lose the aspect of not having a chance to develop not just your young players, but your team. And I think that this, with going on the second practice today, we have one Wednesday and 2 on Thursday, that the more times you practice and you do the drills and fundamentals, and the better you should get. And I think that's what's happening, with a lot of the guys that we haven't seen this year as much.
Mike, when you look at Auburn, which lost its defensive coordinator and has had its offensive coordinator kind of had his attention divided, and you look at all these other programs that have had coaching changes, do you kind of count your blessings that here you are preparing for a bowl, you're not losing any assistants going somewhere to interview, you I guess have had one change in 2 years and replaced Ron Mattis with a guy who had worked a lot with your offensive line?
There's a lot to be said about consistency, and I think that's been one of the things, going on year or two, to be consistent. I mean, when you've been in a place for 4, 5, 6, 7 years, and guys have been there longer, you're always worried about the level of the message that's getting to the players and the schemes and the systems. And I think that this opportunity, this year going into this game, as we approach the new year, having the staff intact, the same system, the development of the players and the understanding of what we're asking them to do, both on the field and in the classroom. I think as part of having a more experienced team, even though we're a young team, it's still a more experienced team that's making the incremental steps to getting better. And I think all those things, Doug, coaches staying together, the systems still the same, the expectations in the classroom, in the community, those things being consistent. So I think that part of it again, only year two, but that part of it being consistent, I think, is what's gonna make, get us to be better as we move forward.
Mike, it's been since 2005 that a group of seniors has walked away from Virginia football winning their last game. How important is it for this class? And then also, you talked about the springboard into spring practice.
To steal a quote from, you know, Coach Groh, should always talk about we're all ruled by the psychology of results, you know? And in your last game, being successful in that is always positive because it takes you into spring practice. It takes you into, you know, the summer workouts. It takes you into the first game of the new season. And so anytime you have an opportunity to be successful, and as you pointed out, you know, since 2005, that was the last time, I think it's always important. And hopefully, you know, Dave, you know, this year has been a year that, you know, we haven't done this in November, we haven't won, or we haven't, hopefully this has been a year that will continue with one game left to be a year that we've been able to fulfill some of those, you know, those milestones that haven't been successful for us in a while. So it is important. It is important to win, and it's important to play well because, as I said, you know, the guys that we're playing, they're a really good football team, so that's going to be very important.